Peace, peace.
Peace, brother. Peace. How you doing today?
Well, brother. I'm on here. I'm with you.
Finally.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my with my computer and everything, but we got you, and that's the important part. That's the important part. So, for those who don't know who you are, introduce yourself.
I am Geno, aka Art by Imagine. Um, I'm a digital creator. I'm an artist. Um, and you are.
Well, my name is Thomas, aka Mr. King Creed. I do the Black Service announcement. This is my podcast I've been doing now since 2018. I had started it with my cousin, and then I just kind of took over the mantle after that. I do everything from little jewelry making, necklaces and things of that nature, to talking to people and just engaging with people, trying to find out what's going on in the world, and get it from actual people who see what's going on and can pass all the BS. So that's what
Indeed,
I do.
indeed. Well, it's an
Well,
honor and a pleasure to be on here with you, my brother.
man, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you on here, my brother. So, um, so you say you're a digital creator. What for for some that don't know, because I get confused with it sometimes. What what is the job of a digital creator, and what do they do?
Well, it kind of has a twist to it these days because essentially, um, we are putting our arts, our crafts, whatever that craft may be, whatever that art may be, we're posting these things online, which puts us in a digital format. So if you're doing public speaking, motivational speaking, if you have healing services, a lot of that
Hmm.
content is being put online now. So at first, when I created my account, I put artist, but now I realize I really need to put digital creator, and I highly suggest that for everyone because ultimately our crafts are turning into digital content.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So how does your digital content differ from others?
Well, I would say I'm uniquely me. Um, I'm approaching 50, so I've been authenticated in this world, and so everything that's coming through my channel is authentically me.
Got you. Got
Uh, the art I create is inspired through the divine, like the rest of my brothers and sisters as well. So I have my unique, distinct, creative energy going into, my art pieces, for example, and they are very different. Um, they're like your fingerprint. Uh,
you.
you know.
Not not all fingerprints are the same.
Exactly,
So very, very,
exactly.
very, very unique. It's very unique.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Do
Yes, indeed.
do you do like cartoon animations? Um, I guess does that fall along the lines of digital creation, like cartoon animations and stuff like that?
It does. It does. I would say that you know the digital landscape is not biased. Um, everyone has access to be able to put their craft, on there, whatever that craft may be. Um, so I see a lot. I'm sure you do too, and your followers see a lot of different types of content. Doing live streaming and posting and reels and stories, and
Yeah.
it's all there.
Got got you. Now you also do jewelry jewelry work as well, and also create a lot of different necklaces, bracelets, a lot of different things I've seen on your page. Speak on that, and what encouraged you to want to start making jewelry?
Wow. Well, I'll share with you a piece that I have on right now.
I like that.
Um, let's see, it got on a bracelet here,
I like that.
uh, bracelet here. So I got started. Actually, I was a customer and a connoisseur before I started making jewelry. I was inspired to wear copper because it honestly it looked good on my skin. I felt
Hmm.
something. I felt a different force than I felt with wearing silver or gold. The copper was magnetic. The copper was energizing, and it really was defining who I felt myself becoming and who I was at that time. And that transcended time
Hmm.
into a whole experience that I had with a homeless brother by the name of Copper John. And
Okay.
Copper John is a very significant figure in the world of copper jewelry making because people will go down to Little Five Points in Atlanta and see Copper John making jewelry on the sidewalk.
Hmm.
And
Oh
uh,
wow.
and he would be out there every day almost. You know, you could catch him on the weekends definitely, and he would just sit on the curb and make pieces. And to me, looking at him, you know, through the eyes of a quote unquote person who had a home or whatnot, seeing a homeless brother making jewelry was just very impactful to me. This brother was making a living, generating income, doing something creative while being quote unquote homeless. And so that had a big impact on me. And when I started buying his pieces, I just wanted more. I wanted a whole collection of copper pieces. And I thought about it constantly. When is the next time I'm going to be able to buy a piece? And because they were just so powerful. You know, I had never seen the combination of copper and crystal jewelry at that time. And once I laid my eyes on it, and once I put it on, it really it stuck with me. And I moved him into my house at that time, and he stayed there for a couple of weeks, and he said that he didn't belong in a home. He needed to be in the streets. And so he left. He went back out. Uh, I left the neighborhood, and when I came back about 5 years later, he had passed away.
Ooh.
And I'm hoping to generate some funds at some point in time in the next couple of years to get a mural of him created in Little Five Points. Um, and I'll just throw this in there real quick because I spoke to someone who told me about how he transitioned. He did have a drug problem, uh,
Mm.
off and on for many years. From my understanding, he had been making copper jewelry in Little Five Points for over 30 years. But in his last days, the place where he used to set up and make this jewelry all the time, there was a bike store right next to it. And it was owned by Caucasian gentlemen. And I was told that in Copper John's last days, that the store owner took him into his home while he was
Hmm.
sick and cared for him, and it actually caused a issue in his marriage. And his wife told him that he couldn't stay there. You know, she didn't want him there, and
Oh wow.
he 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 told her that it was Copper John who brought light to his business, and that he would not allow him to be homeless in his last days suffering. So she said it was either Copper John or the marriage, and he actually chose Copper John in his last days.
Wow. Wow. And that's a testament within itself, man. Like, wow, somebody picked their marriage over making sure this man was comfortable in his last days. That's crazy.
Yeah, Yeah.
I mean, that's inspiring because not a lot of us would do that. Not a lot of us would even think about sacrificing that
You
for
know,
another person.
exactly. Quote unquote stranger, but really and truly, he became like family. He was there for so long. You know, if you walk outside your door every day and see the same person, and you have interactions with that person, they become a part of your space.
Mhm.
Uh, and unfortunately, you know, his wife didn't gravitate towards that. She felt differently. She didn't want him that close. She didn't want him in the home, but the brother was actually, you know, going through his transition. So I think it's very, very inspiring. It says a lot about the human heart.
It, and you know what? And it says a lot about how we look at people, just just people, regardless of skin color. Um,
Yes, yes,
it's you know somebody pick somebody that they probably been with for God knows how long, and you pick a man who's been out on your street. You I guess in a sense you looked at the bigger picture, or that man looked at the bigger picture, and that's inspiring. Not a lot of us look at the bigger picture, and then when you kind of break down that story, you know, even when you think about it, 20 you've been on that street corner for 30 years, and who knows how long that man's been in business or had his business set in that area, and to acknowledge somebody to help generate revenue for your business, and
yeah,
probably seeing him every day, knowing his habits, knowing his ways. The only thing that he probably could have done was just really be there for him in his life. I mean, there's a lot of different. I don't even want to say analogies. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but to know that somebody actually probably took all of those things into consideration and actually, said, hey, let me give you a place to rest your head before you pass. That's a great and encouraging story. I always say everything is crazy because in the world that we live in today, you never really hear things like that. So,
true, true,
it,
true, very true.
you
Yeah,
know,
I tend to see the soul as having eyes that don't see color,
mm, mm,
uh, and it really was a testament, you know, because we seem to operate in a world of races and color and whatnot. So anytime I see that, man, I celebrate it and I share it with the family because we don't hear stories like that, and we don't know what relationships have been forged through certain situations. So in my eyes, that was a just uh, divine experience, especially in your last days and you are going through your transition, and I'm sure for him, knowing Copper John, uh, he was probably pissed off about it a little bit and probably wanted it to be over. Just to be honest, just his character, because Copper John was so raw. You know,
yeah,
he probably wanted it to be over as soon as possible, and that's what I loved about him. You know, he was just real, and he expressed himself quite frequently and quite bluntly. You know, he would have his good days and bad days, you know, so to speak.
yeah,
So I loved him for that, just for who he was.
that part. And that's a great, like I said, that's a great story to tell, and that's a great story to have because one, that was a person that's inspired you, and it inspired you to make great jewelry. Because again, I've looked at a lot of the stuff that you posted on IG, and it looked like you took to what was being done. You took to what you could learn from that man, as well as it inspired you to make jewelry. Um, every walk of life. So that's an amazing story. That I think that's a testament to who that man is, but to also to who you are as a person. I feel like stories like that and them being life altering the way that they change who we are as a person. Um, I feel like that gives us a different sense of direction. So for that, I commend you for it, man. Like, you actually, making jewelry to heal everybody, not just a specific group of people. Um,
Yes, it's universal. Copper has been around. Actually, copper was the first metal mined before even gold. So I always say copper was the first gold. It has significant uh, historical significance and presence throughout history, and I'm still learning about how powerful this metal is and the combination of it with crystals. Uh, Now, I'm creating jewelry, yes, but I'm also creating spiritual tools, uh,
okay.
circuits, almost, if you will. Feeling this energy when you're creating these pieces, getting into that relationship with the copper and the crystals, it begins to take on different levels of meaning and experience with working with it. I'm very uh, blessed and honored to have been inspired by it and to carry it forth. And it is providing a tremendous amount of healing. Uh, I have people that uh, send me messages, after they purchase pieces, and it's causing different interaction with people. And I tell them that, this will happen. If you wear pieces that express a deeper level of who you are, then, you can be received in that manner, and people will definitely communicate with you differently. And so it is, or they are adornments, and yes, to the young culture or to the fashionable culture, yeah, you can be fly in your copper, for sure. Um, but it has a multi-layered meaning to it, to me, for what it means to me. So I'm honored to be able to work with it and build this relationship with it and create these gems, and it's very fulfilling. Uh, you know, it's a stress reliever, if you will. I can be in any mood and sit down with these pieces and transmute energy and transform energy. It's kind of like music. When artists create music, most soul music comes from raw emotion, and it gets transmuted and translated into song and dance, etc. And that's kind of how I feel whenever I'm creating.
Okay. What you, you like? You give a whole seminar about copper if somebody gives you the opportunity, man. You seem it seems to be a love and a passion that you have.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
No, I was saying it sounds like you can do a whole seminar off of copper just because of the love that you have for it and how you are diving deep into it and it's healing. I've heard a lot about copper over the years, and if you've done my little research, it came into um, are there other metals that you know of that you've worked with that may be giving a different result, or you just work with just copper?
I've worked with a little bit of everything: bronze, silver. Uh, um, Copper is unique in how you're able to work with it a lot easier than any other metal. So
Mhm.
it's very pliable for constructing things. So I would say on a level of copper giving you access to it to create, it's there's no other metal like it. Um, silver actually silver was a whole different experience in regards to actually healing. I don't know if you're familiar with colloidal silver.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so colloidal silver is very powerful internally to us, much like copper is, but it was used for medicine, and that there's something about copper, silver, and gold that repels bacteria, uh, that repels illness, works with the cells. Because if you think about it, and I'll use a quote from the Bible: "We were created from the dust." Man being molded from clay. What that was leaning into was the fact that we are made from the minerals of the earth, and those minerals are actually your metals, your stones, if you will. So we have naturally copper, zinc, uh, and all sorts of wonderful things. If you look at the periodic table, we have all those elements within us. So it's supplemental when we get it from the earth and we put it back into our bodies, because we oftentimes get depleted. And that's what we're going after in the food. We're going after the vitamins and the minerals to help restore our vitality and our balance and our health. So um, there's a lot of medicinal content when it comes to crystals and metals. It speaks to us. There's a communication that's happening. Looking at life from the standpoint that all things are living, all things are living beings. Everything is alive. Everything is moving. There's nothing that's actually still, except to the naked eye. But in truth, there's constant movement and constant communication and transmitting of information with all of life.
So when you when you speak on these things, where can somebody find information like this? Where can they go to learn more about silver and gold? Um, how it can be used. Because I'm pretty sure there's books on it. I'm pretty sure Google isn't just the only place you can find it. So, is there any books that you would recommend to the people regarding the metals and things of that nature, how they're supposed to get used?
I would definitely give you a few keywords, because it falls into alignment with vibrational therapy, uh, uh, sacred geometry, the power of sound and frequency. This covers the spectrum of all things, because it's really the science of energy and the movement of energy. And I was doing during my journey. I mean, I've read many books, and when if you go pick up a book about, like, they have like the Crystal Bible, um, you know, if you start to read on the research and the application of these things throughout ancient history, it begins to unfold to you. You see the Egyptians working with metals. You saw the Mayans working with metals. You saw the Africans and Native Americans working with metals, and speaking in these things. They wrote songs and poems and all sorts of things. So as you are a student of, of ancient history, you start to come across these things. You start to see examples of how they were using these tools and these instruments. And even modern day science will show you what these things do when they come in contact with your blood, what they do when they're traveling throughout your body. You know, activated charcoal. Um, I'll tell you something. I was a big Discovery Channel watcher, so I was watching
Mm-hmm.
Discovery Channel one day, and uh, they were talking about how monkeys were able to find food even if the food was poisonous, and it would not kill them. And the reason why is because monkeys discovered through fires that were left, the coals of fires after, people had, had their nightly fire for whatever reason that may be, which could have been ritual or just to stay warm. The monkeys would eat the charcoal, and then they would go eat the poisonous berries. They, they figured out that the charcoal would keep the poison from activating in their system. And when I look at today's world, uh, charcoal filters are the best filters you can get. If you were to filter water, the best filters out there are going to have charcoal in them. And that is a mineral to me, you know, via fire, transmuting wood into coal. And um, so, you start seeing examples of, even in nature, showing you the power of the alchemical world, and the power of substances, especially when they get transformed into a different substance, a more usable substance. If you look at your cell phones and your computers, they all have crystals in them. Uh, very small diamonds. They are like radio antennas. So these things are all throughout our lives and the tools that we presently use. They're very powerful. Having them as an adornment is really recognizing the power that they possess in other formats, and other ways of using them. So um, that's just the amazing nature of the creator, of nature. So you can wear these things on your body and they interact with you, and you can also use them as tools as well.
Heard that. It seems like over your years you've acquired a lot of knowledge, especially about these minerals and how they helped us over time. And I didn't even because I had so funny. You used to be a Discovery watcher. A family member. Um, she used to manage the Discovery Channel when I was living down in Florida, and um, I was never a big Discovery fan. I was more of like, I guess, a National Geographic. But needless to say, I've always found monkeys, monkeys very fascinating because they, we look, I feel like sometimes we look at as monkeys as test subjects or just dumb or don't know what is going on. But I feel like monkeys are a lot smarter than what we give them credit for. If you can be smart enough to you know, what would even my question would be, what would even possess you to want to eat the coals, or how would you know the coals would kind of, I guess, suck out the toxins or prevent you from being sick? Like, how would the know that? Like, I would find it.
I love that question. I love that question because it kind of brings me to a mantra that I think needs to be sounded off through the loudspeaker of our community, of the holistic community, of the conscious community, is the application of science. Our ancestors discovered things by using them and testing them. You know, they would make their discoveries by taking nature and experimenting with it. And once you do experiments, you get results. So, so as far as the monkeys are concerned, I cannot tell you that it was the monkey that discovered this, or if the monkey was observing another animal, because birds are known to have this type of intelligence as well. Um, all in nature, once we get up close to it, we learn. Matter of fact, martial arts came from watching animals. Uh, um, Understanding direction and movements came
Wait,
from watching. Yeah.
wait. Martial arts came from watching animals.
Yes.
How?
Correct.
How? How? It
How? Okay. So, for example, um, you ever seen Bruce Lee do that? He does a 1 inch punch, right? So
yeah.
this 1 inch punch is that his fist is literally 1 inch away from a punching bag, and that is the only room. This amount of space here, he has to create enough force to send that punching bag as if he ran up to it and punched it, right? So he has to create that much force, and where that understanding came from was watching a cobra. Watching a cobra's movements. When a cobra stands up and a cobra strikes, a cobra does this, right? So they realize that there's a pulling back force rather than a forward force that actually can create more force. Think about that. We think about applying pressure and moving forward to create force. So what they figured out was that snapping back motion was where all the power was. And so they figured out how to produce more force by the snapback effect. And that's just not something that we normally think about. So
True.
they found the chi in that movement. There's chi inside of that movement. And when they learned how to operate in that, and because you got to think, you know, if you bored in nature, what are you going to do?
Play around with stuff.
You're going to start, you know, like playing around with some things. You're going to start observing some things you wouldn't otherwise. And so this is why you have the tiger style, uh, eagle claw, monkey boxing. You have all these styles, and they came from watching the animals and their movements. Praying mantis. When you look at a praying mantis when he stands up, that looks like the kung fu master.
Hmm.
You know, so everything that we needed was in nature, from medicine to you know, the mating dances of the animals and the birds. You know, man started mimicking this behavior because they got to see the whole course of it. They saw the animals doing the male animals doing the mating dances and how that attracted the female. So it's so much. It's a whole library. You know, today's world, you walk into a library and read books, and in ancient times, nature was all you had to do was observe it and watch it, and you would learn from it.
I had an Uber driver one time. It's funny we're talking about animals. I had an Uber driver one time tell me about um, he was quoting off the Bible, and so he stopped before I got out. He asked me. He was like, "Let me give you food for thought." He says, "Who, when they say love thy neighbor as you love yourself, who do you think they were talking about?" And I took a second, and I'm just like, I guess person that's next to you or whatever. And he was like, you're wrong. He was like, he says, my personal belief is he was speaking about the animal. Because when you think about it, you got animals first. Well,
Mm-hmm.
who are
Mm-hmm.
you? You know what I'm saying? You know, who are you? Who are you next to them? And I thought about it. He was like, if you want to know what's going on in the world, you pay attention to the animal. If you want to know what's going on, or not really so much going on, but if you want to know how to heal, if you want to know how to do certain things, pay attention to an animal. And it didn't click to me until you started talking about monkeys that we don't we don't learn enough from animals. We don't learn enough from um, like we do all types of horrible stuff instead of just letting animals be animals. If that makes sense. Um, um,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I believe in these. Well, from what I've seen, a lot of these things were documented. A lot of the observations were documented and passed on. What was observed and what was learned, and then we take things and then we run with it. Uh, once it comes into the consciousness of the planet, man then takes that information and that knowledge and then builds upon it. Um, one of the things that I wanted to do, I had an opportunity to meet a brother. It wasn't under the best of circumstances, however, but I met this brother who went from being a quote unquote regular person to a billionaire. And we were, let's say, for lack of better words, we were in confinement at the time,
okay.
and and word got out that he became a billionaire because he actually was a defense contractor for the United States, and he created something for satellite dishes, and the
Hmm.
the uh, the GOV ended up buying it from him, and
Oh
and
wow.
and so he sent out a message to everybody that he wanted to know he wanted people to submit to him ideas that they had because he was trying to figure out what to do with the proceeds. So I wrote him a 5-page letter, and my idea was to start an institute in Africa that was solely based upon plants and animals, studying plants and animals and the chemicals that they produced for healing. It was my belief that we could find a cure for everything in nature, whether it was from an animal or from a plant, but not enough research had been done into the animals and certain unique chemical compositions that they have that would benefit us. Uh, so, yeah, I think there's more to be done, definitely.
There's a lot more to be done, especially speaking like that. So it sounds like if you had the money, that's what you would have been doing, or if you have the money, that's something that you would be planning on doing is setting something up in Africa.
Yeah, I mean, there are no great scientific institutions there that I know of. Now, this was, probably 15 years ago. So we may have gotten to that point, but I just felt what better place in Africa than to institute some type of science laboratory institute for the purposes of curing diseases and healing people. Why not have that in Africa? And um, it was actually well received. It was actually well received, and unfortunately, whenever I had transitioned and tried to reach back out to him, his family blocked everybody from communicating with him.
Um,
It just goes to show you the power of a family member becoming a billionaire.
yeah, great. But like you said, when money's involved and you become something big and different, nobody expects. Everybody invests in you to some degree. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So, are you still trying to pitch the idea? Are you still trying to seek funding for it? What steps are you taking?
Well, to be honest with you, it's not every day that you run across a investor that's able to invest millions and millions of dollars, especially that's African American. Um, so for me, it was the idea still exists. Obviously, the opportunity is there, but it may not be an opportunity for me to necessarily pursue, unless I find myself being in that atmosphere of finance. So it's one of those things that once the idea has been birthed, it will attract to it what is needed if that's to be. I can't say that maybe there hasn't been some research done in that area that I may not be aware of. There's a lot of laboratories around the world, and what I do know is that it's very difficult to find anything that's been produced for the human body that doesn't have some type of connection to nature. I'll give you an example. We have receptors in our brains that pharmaceutical companies uh, have to use the corresponding transmitters in medicine in order for our body to even embrace pharmaceutical medicines. So they understand how we are designed, and nature works with nature. You can't leave nature outside of your inventions.
Wait, repeat what you just said again, because I heard you, but I just want to make sure that the people in the back heard you as well.
Sure, sure. I worked for Eli Lilly, and she was helping me understand how pharmaceutical medicine works. And because for me, it was just so unnatural. We taking this stuff and it's doing a lot of damage. Like, why? How is it that our body would even receive it? And she explained to me that they understood that we have receptors, and those those receptors that we have in our brains and in our chemical makeup have to actually be respected in order to be injected. So you have a natural compound within uh, all pharmaceuticals that can transmit information and interact with our natural biology and our natural chemistry, because otherwise they would not be able to administer these things.
That sounds like a form of control.
It absolutely is a form of manipulation. Absolutely.
That what is okay? So let me ask you this question: what is something that you would say to somebody who is they don't want to they won't take medicine unless it's FDA approved. They don't care who you know. What is one thing that you would say to one of those stubborn people who feel like they need to rely on man-made medicine?
It's very common, you know. a lot of folks just, the old school amongst us, they not down with anything that the doctors don't approve of, because they have bought into the doctors being the healers.
Oh, I know some young people that are like that too now.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's that's been passed down. They started taking us to the doctors when we were young, so we started buying into it as well. I guess what I would say to that person is, I would try to present them with what we know, the evidence, and say, well, where have you seen a cure for whatever it is that you have? Is this medicine known for curing whatever your ailment is? And I would start there. Now, a person has to have a desire to want to be healed, cured, because there's a difference between treating symptoms and actually curing something. So if you want to just be treated for the symptoms, then you have that route. You can go the traditional way. But if you're looking at healing, then you need to over to mother's nature, to mother, and then you can maybe introduce them. But it has to be a desire of the person, uh, you know, to want to step outside of tradition and programming, etc. So um, that can be a battle sometimes, just depending on how open minded that individual is, and if you can present them enough information and knowledge about another means to get them into a better vibration.
Got you, got you. Because I, because I know people. I have somebody right now. They have an iron deficiency, and they believe in eating red meat, but they also believe in taking this man-made medicine. And I had to tell them the other day, you can't. You have to want to heal yourself. You have to want to make yourself better. And I'm like, so I put it to her in these terms. I say, you're a Christian. You go to church every day. You put faith. You put faith in. You put faith in God. So my question becomes, if you go to church and you have a routine and you do all of that, and somebody comes to you with research and says, well, these are natural things of the earth that you need to be taking to kind of help with that, iron or whatever the issue is. And they say, well, if it's not FDA approved, I'm not going to take it. Like, I just look at you like, but this is from the earth. This hasn't probably had anybody touch it. And I guess in a way for me, it becomes frustrating because it's like you want to help that person and help them understand, like, you don't have to have an iron deficiency problem. You
Yes.
can take some of this, take some of that. But I guess that's the reason why I had asked that. I'm seeing it more in people, again, that are younger. And don't get me wrong, um, I grew up traditionally. My grandparents or my grandmother, she went to the doctor, but at the same time, oddly enough, she, she had remedies for everything. If I was sick, um, she would give me castor oil. If um, if I had like a real bad fever or a real bad cold, she would make a certain concoction, and then like a day later, I'm back outside playing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess for me, it kind of, when I grew up and I knew better and I learned, I said, well, let me see. I always believe that if there's a disease in this world, there's a cure for it. It may not be one single plant. It may take two or three different plants that you mix together and have to take for 3 weeks. You know, just different stuff. Because I guess in a certain way that's alchemy. Mixing certain things together to get something. If I'm not mistaken. But I always believe that there is a cure for everything. And I always believe that you can also create your own cures for things. One, by switching your diet and what you eat, and being mindful of it, but also um, really tapping in and learning about your plants, learning about your herbs, learning about what certain metals can do, and if they're in a lack of a better word, an edible form. Um, I don't know, just learning different stuff. I guess I think I think we should be having more seminars where we're teaching people about um, we're teaching people about their health and about what copper can do and silver and gold and crystal healing. I think there needs to be more talks like that in the communities as well. Um,
I agree 100%. I agree, and that frustration, to have a loved one that is stubborn, uh, and I'm just gonna say it for what it is, for what we deal with our elders and our mothers, our fathers. It could be anybody in your family that is uninformed and does not have the faith or belief or the desire to do the research. Um, a lot of these things have been elaborated on and discussed. The information is out there. I have to tell everyone that we have figured out the genetic code. We have traveled to other planets, um, but there's a lag, just like our signals can have a lag. You know, whenever we're trying to download information and we don't have a good connection, there's a lag. Um, and it's one thing to try, but it's another thing to ignore. And that is the root of the word ignorance. Unfortunately, that is the greatest disease that's in our community is ignorance, to ignore the opportunity to know. So if you tell someone that there's an answer out there for them and they refuse for whatever reason to seek out those answers for their own healing, for their own progression, that's a result of the greatest disease that is on us. Unfortunately, and these can be the people that we love the most, that we care about the most. That's
and that's what it is for me as well. Like it's so much information out there, and I just had a conversation with my older brother, and he had mentioned to me, he's like, with us, a lot of our people are still in trauma and fear from slavery and oppression and things of that nature. And I tell him, well, I somewhat disagree. I said I was like, if you're talking about the older generation on down, maybe starting with, from the 80s, maybe the 90s on down. Yeah. I said everything on up. I said this is all us who ain't doing what we're supposed to be doing, that allow the principles that we were taught to skip a generation. Um, you know, I'm not for abusing a child, but I'm not for a child trying to tell me what to do. I'm not for I'm not for me whooping my child or whooping my daughter, but I'll let the mother know, and I'll let the mother whoop you, because I believe how we teach our kids now is how they're going to do things. And I think, again, we've gotten away from discipline. We've gotten away from not continuously teaching ourselves and learning every day and letting a box tell us how our lives are supposed to be. You basically let a television run your life. These kids, and I tell everybody this story every time I'm conversating with somebody or whatever. I was This is back in 2000, I want to say 13, 14. No, this is like 11, 12, or going on 12, whatever. We, I was home, I was at home. I think all the kids were getting ready to get off from school. And the these kids got off the bus. And this girl starts singing this Lil Wayne song. And she gets to Nicki Minaj's part. And she's just blaring it out all loud or whatever. I'm just like, first of all, what do you know about any of that, what you just said? You got to be like 12, 13. I mean, that's me. And I realize even today, we have allowed our music, we have allowed our entertainment to really draw the narrative in how we do things and how we act, and we're not teaching. We're being destructive, if I should say so myself. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I listen to rap music, all of that good stuff too. But at the same time, I'm old enough to either appreciate it or to know I don't need to be stupid to listen to what they're saying. But then again, in the same token, I feel like we should have been more aggressive when it came to when it comes to our music, because I feel like it's a balance. If you're going to allow your child to grow with this technology and grow with this music and grow with everything, you either need to set boundaries or we need to help those boundaries be set for you. That's why you have, I feel like, the generation today doing what they do, and then we don't have a lot of things that are educating our kids. um I mean, you still got PBS and stuff like that, but I'm talking about actually talking about history and real history and how things were, how things could possibly be, if that makes sense. Um, I don't know. I feel like we need to do a little bit of a better job just teaching and teaching those who want to learn, not trying to teach those who don't. Because I know it's an easier said than done process, but we got to start going back to teaching. Um, Grandmother always told me she used to get her behind whoop when she was in school. Now I ain't saying all that need that, but what's your thoughts on that?
You touching on a subject that's really near and dear to my heart, man. And I'm just going to say it the best way that I can, in the most blunt way that I can. We are negligent. We have clocked out. If you look at the percentages of families that have taught their children boundaries, that, that have taken education out of the school and started it in the home. Any great teacher will tell you that education starts in the home, doesn't start in school. So our children are not being educated because that's where the education comes from, is the home. Um, there's a whole list of things, from responsibility, accountability, uh, teaching children critical thinking skills, how to use these devices that we now have, that you can access information 24 hours a day. And we're seeing the results, boys and girls. Uh, Regardless of what your family structure is, you still have access and the ability to gain knowledge, to learn, and experience this life fully. And I'm 100% agreement with you that music is a driving force. We needed to be dealing with music before we even dealt with food, because your diet consists of the things that come into your body, your eyes, your ears. These are the main receptors of your diet, because the eyes and the ears are located right or connected to the brain. So we'll focus on what is going in our mouth, but what is coming out of our mouth is coming from what's gone into our eyes and our ears. And
Mm-hmm.
we are spell casting our lives away, and we have not armed these children who actually have more strands, or if you look at the DNA structure as a system of lights, these children that have been born over the last decade have more lights turned on, but they're getting less guidance and less instruction. And we are feeling the effects of it because they're very powerful beings that are not being informed and educated from the home. And they're predominantly operating in the perils of emotional mismanagement, so it's a big it's a big issue. And I for me, in regards to music, it's probably the biggest influencer than anything else, because we are people of rhythm. We are people that are affected and influenced by music in the most meaningful, powerful way. And so because we haven't dealt with that, we're supporting music and artists that are further investing into themselves, and is leading to the destruction of generations. And so um, I'm with you on that, brother. I feel that, and that is has been a very difficult thing to watch and observe in our children.
It, it's 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 to me a crying shame because it's like I had a video on um what's it called? I had a video on line of a kid, a young man cussing this other older man out. The guy said, "What's going on?" I guess he said, "What's going on, young blood," or whatever. And the guy just the kid just went off. Like now, me still being a little younger and doing some of the young people things that young people do, I understood from his side why he was all aggressive about it. I get it, especially if you out on the streets and you selling drugs or you doing whatever. I get it, but in the same token, I feel the older generation knows when you're looking for trouble. Now, the approach and all of that, also, I feel like if you're going to give the youth, or if you're going to give the youth or whatever, if you're going to give the youth information or gems or knowledge or whatever, you got to be in a sort of knowledge setting, knowledge giving setting. And what I mean is, like, for instance, I was working a job one time, and I said something simple to this dude, but he got it. And like every day, he was like, "Dang, dog, you got any more words of wisdom?" And I'm like, "Nah, like it was just one of those things that I learned and picked up along the way. Like, not a book." But I had told him, um, I forget what we were talking about, but I had said specifically to him in life, there's two types of L's that you can take. You can either lose, um, or you can learn from it. I said if you lose, you can lose some money, you can lose your house, you can lose your woman, your family, or possibly your life. But if you learn a lesson, you can gain so much more. I said it's really, it's a choice after a point in time, you learn it's a choice that you made, or it's choices that you're making, not decisions that you have no choice in. And he was just like, dang man, that was pretty smart, blah blah blah. And I realized, you know, if I wasn't in a job setting and it wasn't something that I had to show him, or if he didn't ask the question or whatever, or however the conversation came about, he might have not learned that, or he might have learned that later on in life. So I believe that we also have to kind of put these kids and these youth in a setting where they can learn, or where life lessons can be given to them, and then stop sugarcoating shit. You know, I tell people all the time, like, these kids cuss like we cuss, and hell, they cuss sometimes worse than we do. Um, I said, but if you're not, if we're gonna cuss around them and if we're gonna do what our parents wasn't really trying to do around us, then at least teach them how to do it appropriately, and teach them how to do it the right way, instead of just doing it just because they feel like they can do it. And I feel like that's another problem. We don't teach them how to do things. We just let them do it, and then say we'll let them figure it out, and then cry and complain when letting them figure it out didn't go the way that we thought it should.
Ooh, boy, I tell you, man, you hitting on some major things. I I was just thinking the other day, and I really wanted to put something together to go in depth with this topic, and that is sex, teaching children about their bodies. Um, it's not happening, and I don't know how you can send, as powerful as we are, how can you send your children and allow this next generation to come into this world with no knowledge about themselves? Um, we see the results. Human beings are being born into this world from parents who have not matured. Uh, the basic things of etiquette, and as you stated, it's the how. How to. You wouldn't give a child a gun and just let them play with it, because your life would be in danger as well.
Hmm.
But we don't see that when we look at children, you know, and we are, to your point, being a poor example. We're saying, do as I say and not as I do, and that is a confusing message. You know, once they've already heard the curse words, etc., then they've already gotten the program. They've already been influenced because they've heard it, and I believe that the mother and the father and the aunts and uncles are the classroom. Your family is where you get the majority of your behaviors from. Habits. It's from your family. And this plays into responsibility that we have to the younger generation, and when we forfeit that, we don't get good results. And it's a shame. It is a shame. It's absolute shame, because I believe that lives are being wasted, and we're creating an environment where trauma can manifest itself over and over and over again. That's
You said it, and you said it right on. It's the trauma, and I don't even want to say trauma. It's the fear that we all live in, and we don't live in our own truth. We don't live in our own vibration. We don't live in our own meditation. We don't do our shadow work. We don't look, and as the young people would say, we don't tap in. We tap in with any and everything else but ourselves. On top of, I don't feel like we really forgive ourselves or heal from our own past trauma. If you're not going to heal, if you're not going to heal for if you're not trying to heal for your family, at least heal for yourself. And it's a journey. It's a journey. Um, it's a journey. It's a, it's a walk. It's a long walk, not a race. It's not a sprint. It's not a little jog. It's a walk. And I feel like for us, we don't tap in to those things that can heal us. I have crystals surrounded all over my room. Whenever an ancestor or something in me says, put it here, put this one here, or do this with this one, and put these over here just in case, and then whatever, bro, I listen because for whatever reason, it's it's turning my one place that I should feel safe here, even if I never felt safe and secure in it. It's it's my sanctuary. It's my room. So when I'm in my room, I'm in my throne. I'm in my everything. And I tap in with myself. I talk with myself. I deal with myself. I deal with whatever I got going on, and I keep it moving. I keep it moving after that. And I feel like everybody deserves that. Every person deserves that, especially us. Um, deserves to have a room. Deserves to be um, deserves to be happy and to be free, or not so much. Well, yeah, happy and free, but deserves to know and to spend time and to learn. And when I say learn about yourself, I don't just mean tap into you. Tap into this energy that's outside. Go out here and get in this grass. Stick your feet in the grass. Take a whole day to just sit outside and just be outside, like just to be outside. Meet some of your neighbors. Talk to somebody. You know, I don't know how many different people that I literally have to come about myself for and be a different version of myself just to promote my business, just to promote my podcast, just to promote what I'm doing. Um, I had to promote, so I'm doing a seminar on the New Year. Probably it's gonna probably be more like a workshop, but I'm getting a lot of different people to talk about different things. Like I have a friend, she makes a lot of different tinctures and does a lot and talks a lot about, different things in health and um, she deals with different oils. I have another friend, me, him, and maybe somebody else. We're going to talk about fatherhood and what we should be doing as men in 2024. Um, I have another friend, he's into gardening and he sells, CBD products and things of that nature. So going to try to see how much he can talk about that, and the gold mine in that, and things of that nature. And me, I'm 35 years old, man. Like half of this stuff, I was starting to learn when I was like 25, 24. And, appreciative that I learned it at the time that I learned it, because Lord knows where I would have been or where I would be if, somebody didn't take that chance or that opportunity to say, hey, man, let's sit down and talk about X, Y, and Z. And do you actually know who you are? Or are you just walking around here mindless? For me, it was more like on some Matrix shit. You could take the red pill or you could take the blue pill, like which one you want to take. And I feel like for a lot of us, we have our own Morpheuses. We just haven't even met them yet, or we haven't engaged with those people yet. And maybe it's not our time, you know. Um, I firmly believe that when it's your time, the universe will do what, or the universe will do what it needs to do, and it will put the people in your place that you need to have for that specific reason. It happened for me that way. It happened for a lot of my other friends. A lot of the people that I feel like are in my soul tribe, it's happened to them in that same type of nature. Um, Oddly enough, I, I have a best friend, and she came into spirituality, and I forget how she told me she came into it. And everybody had, but the point is, everybody has their own Morpheus, and everybody has their own person that's trying to help guide them or help get them to where they need to be. Um, and I believe that, again, we should be having a lot more webinars and uh, web workshops and stuff like that to uh, um, push the narrative and teach about this healing and teach about um, what we should be doing. Because again, there's not a lot of us out there that are old enough that know better and have an understanding of what was going on in the past, and then there's not a lot of us left that are from the past that we gather information from, or we get to learn from, should I say. And I think that's another thing. I don't listen to I don't listen to all my elderly folk, but I do try to listen to some that are trying to tell me something that I need to hear. And I feel like sometimes, as a young person, sometimes we just need to shut the fuck up and listen to what this older person has to say. Because at the end of the day, is getting into something with this older person because you don't want to hear what they have to say, or hear what they have to say so they can move on about whatever it is they got going on. And I would rather them say what they need to say so they can move on than for me to get in a confrontation with them because I didn't want to hear what they had to say. And maybe what they maybe had to say could have saved my life. I've learned to tap in, and I've learned that sometimes before I do something stupid, or before for instance, I had moved from Florida to South Carolina. When I had moved, I had this girl, she came up to me and she simply said, um, you the grass isn't always going to be greener on the other side, so make sure you make the right choice and decision. Mind you, me and her were never really friends. I never really had much of a conversation with her. I think the most that we had in common is that we were both Pisces and that her birthday was like maybe 5 or 6 days from mine. Needless to say, I, it just wasn't it just wasn't no reason for her to have that conversation. And I don't even I think she may have overheard me say that I was getting ready to move or whatever. So when she said it to me, I didn't understand why the hell she said it, because I'm like, bro, I don't know you like that for you to come talk. But when I ended up moving and was dealing with certain situations, that was the very first thing that popped into my head. And I had to push myself beyond, push past the ceiling of the limits that I had to really know myself and know what I would be willing to do and capable of doing if the time called for it, if it was needed. I'm saying all that to say, if I would have listened and just really planned out instead of acting out of frustration and anger at that time, then maybe I wouldn't have gone through everything that I went through, or gone through, or heeded warnings of certain stuff. But needless to say, um, because I didn't listen, or because I listened but I didn't really sit and give it much thought. Um, I ended up putting myself in a position where I didn't want to be for a little period, and I realized, dang, if I would have gotten into an altercation with her and whatever, you know, would I be able? Where would I be? Like, would I really have thought about it as much? When I went through my little trials, would I have thought about those words, or would I just have thought about the time I had to cuss this trick out because she talking to me about something I ain't, you know, she ain't had no business listening to or whatever. But needless to say, when we don't listen, that's when we end up falling short. And I firmly believe that. I think that we pay attention and listen. Um, a lot of what we go through wouldn't be the problems that we have. And I think for a lot of us, you know, tapping in and just getting in, I had to learn that through knowing myself. So I'm saying all that to say, learn about yourself, get into some of these workshops and seminars, and find out, you know, how these people, you know, do what they do, and how they got as far as they've gotten, and they might just be the, you know, the person that, you know, brings you to clarity. You know, that's just my personal.
Listening is a skill. You know, listening requires attention, observation, and patience. And throughout my daily walks, whenever I'm interacting with elders, I was a barber. I was a barber for about 15 years. um, and there's lot of great transformative conversations that happen in that chair. And I always express to elders that they have an obligation to pass down wisdom to the next generation. These were individuals who had so much life experience and so much understanding of the world and how it works. And these are things that are timeless. These are things that will never change. And I always just employ them to share that, man. And if you see that you got about a decade left on this planet, pass something down. You know what I'm saying? If you couldn't pass it down to your children, pass it down to somebody else. Don't don't transition with that. You know, leave your mark here. Leave your wisdom here, because wisdom is the application of knowledge, and it's also experience. And experience is not something that can be bought. You know, you couldn't go somewhere and buy 10 years of experience. It's something that you have to go through. And so I'm a big proponent of that. I I think that is vital, and I think it's also unfortunate if our elders transition and they don't have an opportunity to speak. So one thing I would encourage everyone to do is find the elders in your family, find the elders in your space. They may not be your blood family. They may just be someone you know who you've crossed paths in lives. I adopt elder people into my life, certain ones that I know that I can be fed from. I keep them close to me, and because they also need our help too. You know, it's an equal exchange. Elder people need younger people, and younger people need the elders, because for just in general sense, they can give you the game. They can give you some game about your relationships, about doing business, about the workings of this world, and they can give it to you from firsthand experience. So, uh, find a young person in your space. There's a young person that everybody has access to, but they're not engaging them, and they're not giving them the game. They're not giving them tools to use in this world, and giving them knowledge that's beyond this world. And that's a part of opportunity that we have while we're here, and again, we see the results from not doing that. But listening is vital. We have an internal guidance system with us at all times. You spoke on it earlier. That inner voice, whatever you wanted to title it as, to describe it as, you have an internal guidance system. And when you listen, now this doesn't even require you reading anything. This is just you being in tune within yourself, listening to that voice and allowing it to guide you and experimenting with it and seeing what happens when you do listen, when you do reflect. Uh, um, Also, something you mentioned earlier really had to do with discernment. Like discernment is a it's a byproduct of wisdom. You know, for you to be introduced to something and you can discern, which means to dissect, which means to filter. When you're discerning this world and while you're experiencing it, you can get the things that you need that are going to apply to you, that are going to be beneficial to your walk. And you can leave those things that do not. So, uh, yes, I'm 45. I'm practicing listening more than anything else. You know, it's the most important thing that I can really focus and work on is always trying to listen, because what happens is that voice gets very low when you don't listen to it. When you get out of tune, you're no longer getting your GPS. You're no longer getting your guidance information. You've muted it, cut it off, or you've let the voice get very, very low, and now you don't have what comes to you naturally, which is knowing. And it's in all of us. And there's a choice that we have to make to engage it and be in tune with it and reap the benefits from it.
Right. Very much right. Is, you know, and I'm gonna end it with circling back to how your inspiration came from somebody that a lot of us look down upon, a lot of us don't give a second thought to.
And you got inspired. And correct me if I got the name wrong, but you said his name Copper John.
Yes. His name Copper John. I never.
So you got in, but you got inspired by him, and look at what you do now. Look at what you make now. So it all goes to show, if you take your time and you actually try, especially to all my youth out there, if you actually try to make connections with some of these older folks, man, you don't know what you might find. You don't know what you may become. And um that's you can't get listen, you can't get anywhere if you don't learn anything. You won't learn if you're constantly running your luck, running your lip. Grandmother had an old saying, I gave you one mouth, two eyes, two ears, and two nostrils, two hands. When it's all said and done, the only thing your mouth is good for is talking when spoken to and eating to survive. Outside of that, I mean, nowadays, you know, I mean, talking can get you out of trouble and a whole bunch of other stuff. But the point was, don't don't overuse one thing when you got so many other, um, when you have so many other amenities that you could be using. And just listen to some of these old folks, man. I'm telling you, they got wisdom beyond your belief, and it just you can learn so much. But, but
I've been mentoring a few people over the years. My usually when my phone rings is something of substance, because of how I communicate with people, and I always tell my younger brothers that I will always be a student first, regardless of what I have to teach or dispel or share. I'm always going to be a student first and foremost because the learning process never ends. I can learn from someone 10 years older than me. I can also learn from someone who's 20 years younger than me. It has no bias. There are holes and gaps that can be filled, but you have to have a yearning, a curiosity. Curiosity is one of the greatest things that we have coming into the world. To be curious is to have the desire to want to know. And however strong your desire to know is going to determine what you attract into your experience. So when you have a really strong desire to know, you will listen and seek out. And you have nothing but time and opportunity to be a sponge. So sometimes, yeah, you have to pull it out of your elders. Sometimes the ones that are quiet, the ones that don't make a lot of noise, those are the ones that you need to say, you know, OG man, tell me something. Just drop something on me. You know, you'll be amazed at what happened. You, you know, a closed mouth don't get fed. You know, a closed fist can't hold nothing. So we have nothing but time and opportunity on a daily basis. You know, when I used to live in the country, I only had a few people, you know, around me. I didn't have access to as many minds as I did when I moved into the city. But I learned something from everybody along the way. Sometimes the majority of my best interactions and conversations were with absolute strangers. You and I haven't known each other that long, but there's something that we are sharing together and exchanging together that is of value on both sides. So, you know, and in the aspect of being a student going into being a teacher, the best way to know something, to confirm what you know, is to teach it to another. And it will reinstitute it and kind of tattoo it into your being. So, you know, study, listen, learn, be curious, ask questions, because that's how we develop, you know. And we just got some things going on because there's obviously been some tampering. You know, at one point in time, we were not allowed to read. We have a lot of traditions that we have to comb through and deal with. But I truly believe that every person at one point in time in their life, you knew who you were. You were very aware of how you felt and how you viewed the world and what affected you. And you know, there were a lot of influences coming from your family first and then school that could have possibly diverted you. But when you start getting of age, you realize you have to go back and find your inner child. It might your inner child, who you knew yourself to be, may be left at the trauma scene of something that happened in your life, and you literally are still in that place, and you have to go back and get yourself. You have to go back and remember, man, how was I reviewing the world when I was 10? What was I thinking about back then? And that's how you tap into deeper elements of yourself, which will tell you a lot more about what's happening in your life and what you may need to do versus what you've been doing. And that would be the insight or wisdom that I would want to share with everyone, is that, you know, tap into yourself, and you tap into everyone around you, essentially, because we're not all that different, you know, especially when you look at us from the standpoint of being children. The classroom was an example of society, you know. So listen, 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 listen. Follow that inner voice. And yeah, you got to realize you have your ego on one shoulder and you have your angel on the other one. And you can tell the difference between where your advice is coming from and what you're being led to do if you're listening closely. And sometimes you're going to have to listen in the way of not having your senses turned on. That means your eyes being closed. That means being in absolute silence. And you can start picking up on vibrations that are much higher than your sensory vibrations. And that can lead and guide you as well. So, spend time with self. The only way to become self-governed and self-realized is for you to spend time with yourself. You can't be in groups all the time. You can't be around people all the time, And you're probably like myself. I enjoy the time that I spend. I enjoy the sanctuary I create in my room or where I'm living, making a home a real home, making it a temple. I have thousands of hours that I can account for of having that alone time to build, to correct, to fix things, to see what's going on with me and what's going on in the universe. And I think it's the most valuable thing that I have because I've been taking notes the entire time. You know, be a note taker in your own life. Take notes. Go back and look at things because everything that we need is really already with us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I'm gonna leave off with just saying, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Um, Learn from yourself, better yourself. You know, um, I want to thank Mr. Geno for jumping on this podcast with me. I thank you so much for your time and your energy, man, and I really appreciate this conversation.
Yes, indeed, brother. And thank you. Thank you for the invite. Maybe we can do it again. I'm really very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to build with you and build with the audience and share with the rest of the family, man. Y'all be at peace and love, peace, prosperity, and light to you.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it so much. And again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for again, just your energy and just conversation and bearing with me, man. I really do appreciate it. And now my camera want to jump back on. This phone, boy, I tell you, this technology be something different sometimes, boy. This whole time I'm sitting here trying to get my camera back on and I couldn't do it. Now
Uh,
I'm getting ready to go off and it wants to come
it,
back on.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But
Yes, sir. All
um,
is well.
all is will be well, man. Well, hopefully we can get you back on here again, man. Um, and have you talking to the good people, man. And again, like I said, I thank you for your time. It was an honor talking to you, and just appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, my brother. Much love to y'all. Peace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go check this man out on his Instagram page. Give people your Instagram page where they can find you
Yes,
at, your digital art.
please do. Please do stop by Art by Imagine, ARTBYEMAGIN on Instagram. That is my main page. I also do, I guess you could say, commentary, like the conversations we're having here. I post a lot about different subject matter, so definitely go check that out. I also have the gems there, art, wall art, things that I'm inspired to create. So you have an opportunity to go back to there, check that out. And that page is evolving into other things. Hopefully there'll be a YouTube page coming sometime in the future. And me and yourself, we can build as well on both of our platforms and just keep building, keep inspiring.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This also, people, this post will be up on my YouTube in the next day or two on the video, and then after that, in the next by Friday, this the audio should be on, excuse me, on uh Spotify and on my radio station. I will be sending you the links for that. And again, like I said, thank you. And to everybody who's been listening, everybody who's been tuning in, man, I appreciate y'all for listening. I appreciate y'all for tuning into this building session. And I would like to thank y'all for tuning in to another edition of the Black Service Announcement. Until the next time we talk and we meet and see each other again, y'all take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and y'all have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.